Good day, folks. Everything new under the sun. Looking at the news for today, an update on the situation as we hurtle towards the end of time, the last seconds of the last days. We see a ramp up that, in terms of world events, that's increasing in frequency and intensity. We're seeing smaller examples, microcosms of kind of the larger events that are going to happen. You talk about nuclear weapons and fallouts and that sort of thing. And we see a similar sort of event where in Palestine, Ohio, a similar event has happened where we see fallout, where people are using the term that the town was nuked. And these are all warnings of things to come. These are small examples of what could be occurring very shortly. And I think it's all a warm-up. Same with the pandemic. I think it was a warm-up as to what sorts of things are coming. And it's if the pandemic brought, a sort of martial law locking down restrictions, then the four horsemen of the apocalypse and the world government are going to bring that times 10. So again, these are all just small representations of what is coming from, again, the pandemic, the war that is raging now, the situation in Ohio, the storms, the hurricanes that are happening, all these things, and also, bird flu and the diseases and pestilences and the trouble on the economic horizon. They're all small examples. Now, what you see before you is the four horsemen of the apocalypse in terms of the seals there. The first seal is deception. Have we had a great amount of deception in the last few years? Absolutely. Is that deception increasing? You talk about ChatGPT and AI, and I think that is only going to add to the massive deception that people will be encountering. And we've already encountered a lot of it, and a lot of people have already been sidelined, basically, and sucked into the narrative, the mainstream narrative. And that's an interesting thing that so many people are already sucked in, and I don't even think the forces of the apocalypse are riding yet. This is all just a warm-up, a precursor. God saying, hey, this stuff is coming times 10, times 100. Here, get prepared, get used to it, see it for what it is, recognize it, so that when the big one, when the real one comes, you'll be ready for it and aware of it. And are we seeing people ready and aware? Absolutely not. Number one, deception. Number two is great war that's going to come during the first 3.5 years. And I think there's even going to be war that's going to kick off prior to that. A big part of the war is going to kick off prior to that, which necessitates a world government, which necessitates the Antichrist coming. Not revealing himself as the Antichrist, but certainly coming. And I think the Christians will recognize who he is. And then we have this idea of famine and then pestilence that comes after. And that's the tribulation. Then we head into the great tribulation, which is the fifth seal, and that turns into the wrath of God, the heavenly signs, the trumpets, and the bowls heading on down the line there. So, quick wrap up of what's happening with the news here, and I think we see each of these things in there. This is interesting. This is Elon Musk again. I don't think he's by any stretch a Christian. But I think God is using him. God uses everyone. God uses the most evil of people often to judge, the Christians in many ways, or his kids. They use them to judge others, just like not the Palestinians, the Philistines is what I was looking for. The Philistines, he used them to judge Israel through war. When Israel was not obeying, the Philistines came and took everything they had. So this is a comment by him: a world government may end humanity. Do you know what? Musk is absolutely right. It will end humanity as we know it, and it is coming. He will not be able to stop it. The billionaire is urging civilizational diversity as a hedge against total global collapse. And he's going to fail, but he's saying it in Dubai, so good on him for saying that. And the Bible describes and predicts the exact thing that he is saying. I don't know if he's read the Bible or not. This is Lavrov, Sergei Lavrov, and he has come out and said that war with the United States is close. Russian diplomats issued dire warning. The Kremlin's top diplomatic official has warned that the Western involvement in Ukraine is nearing the point of no return. So Russia has a red line. And the U.S. is getting very, very close to that red line where, it may not be that nuclear weapons that are used, but EMP. And I think, again, as I've spoken about before, EMP are the cheapest, most effective way to take out the United States. Why? Because they don't have to take out the United States military. All they have to do is take out the civilian infrastructure. And then there would be chaos, madness so much in the U.S. that it could not operate. The military would not be able to operate because the whole country would be in such disarray due to technology. So Russia doesn't have to battle toe-to-toe against militaries. An EMP, and I'm sure they've wargamed this, an EMP would absolutely take us back to the 1800s, and it would effectively destroy the civilization if we couldn't get systems back online in 7 days or whatever it may be. And so that's the easiest and by far the cheapest way. And you don't destroy any structures. No structures are destroyed. Simply all electronics are fail. And then in our technological world, we can't buy or sell. Pretty much we wouldn't be able to buy or sell or anything like that. Blinken, I think this is interesting and timely as it relates to the point of no return in Ukraine. Blinken is now coming out and saying, you know what, Ukraine, maybe you shouldn't go after Crimea. Maybe that is a big deal to the Russians, and they're not going to let it go without, causing World War III. And so interesting that Blinken has now blinked, and this game of chicken is now being called. The bluff is being called, and I think Russia's calling that bluff and saying, you know what, U.S., this is it, no more. And Blinken is now telling Ukraine to stop thinking about Crimea. This is Charles Nenner. And he is afraid of the worst. The war is going to pick up, he says, and gold goes to $30,000. Now, what's the importance of that? It's not that gold goes to $30,000 because the value of gold doesn't change. What changes is the dollar that you buy the gold with. That means the value of every individual dollar is far less. That basically means hyperinflation. And so it's going to, for a dozen eggs, instead of $4, it's going to cost you $18. Basically, your money is worthless, ultimately worthless. And it is. It's a piece of paper. It's a piece of plastic. Originally, it was a note to say that, you know what, if you take this to the bank, we will give you gold, something actual of value, in return, something you can make into products or do something with. And that's what the bank note was originally for, in return for gold. But now it's just not backed by anything. And so this is what happens when confidence in the dollar goes down the hill. It's going to take you a lot of dollars to buy any products because no one wants the dollars anymore. So they're going to ask a lot more for them. Now, this is from War News 247. This is a more, I would suggest, Russia-sided outlet out of Greece. Russian nuclear bombers over Norwegian border. So they have gone over the sovereign borders. Russia has sent 2 supersonic nuclear bombers over the Norwegian bomber in the Norwegian Sea, north of the Shetland Islands, in a stark warning to the West, following NATO's announcement that it would boost aid to Ukraine, and revelations that the Norwegians participated in the sabotage to Nord Stream. So this whole Hirsch revelation that the U.S. was involved in taking out a Nord Stream, and now maybe the Norwegians are involved in that. And yeah, Russia's going to threaten them, absolutely. And Russia in the State Duma has they're voting on whether they're going to open a case with the United Nations to look into who destroyed Nord Stream. Of course, there was an investigation done by Western countries. And did we all get to see the results of that investigation and who they thought did this? Absolutely not. We haven't seen we haven't seen the results of the investigation at all. So apparently these are on Twitter, and this is the bombers two Tu-160 missile carriers performed a planned flight over neutral waters of the Barents and Norwegian Sea. Ministry of the Russian Federation said. So there you go, Russian bombers on the move. This is another War News 247 article. Capitulation with dismemberment of Ukraine, Britain, USA. They say their ammunition is running out and it's too late for the leopards. Now, this sounds like propaganda on the ground for the Wagner group and for the Russian allies fighting there for better morale for their fighters. But it says the Secretary of Defense of the United Kingdom, Ben Wallace, confirmed the bad situation in the arsenal of several NATO countries, a fact that directly affects the combat capability of the Ukrainian army. This was followed by a second intervention by Germany and a third by Secretary General of NATO. Munitions are decreasing. This is going to be the big springtime push. While the ground's frozen, Russia's looking to make major moves. This is kind of their last chance, again, before it freezes up again. And this is it. I did a video before where a Russian soldier was talking to his wife, and there was intercepted phone call there, suggesting that that February is going to be the deciding month, and we've got a couple of weeks left in February. So what's going to happen, I don't know, but I think Putin, this may spill over into March, and it will. But this could be the big drive, and this is going to be the big tell. Will the U.S. Really back up Ukraine? Looks like they're starting to back down. Looks like the bluff is being called, and U.S. and NATO is starting to back down, saying, look, we tried to push Russia back, and they're not getting pushed back, and we don't want to go further into war. But the question is, has there been talks of peace? Apparently there's background channels where they're talking about some arrangements and splitting up Ukraine, but there's been no real public push for peace on either side. I think the last public push was by Putin, actually, requesting that they come to the table and talk peace. So we're heading into the time period, I think, where a world government will need to step into the situation, where there will be increased deception and war. And from that, out of that, maybe at the same time, is the idea of famine and pestilence. And it could be that all those four horsemen of the apocalypse ride at the exact same time, or maybe they're overlapped a little bit and one kind of happens first. And can you see deception happening first? Yeah, maybe with the last 3 years, right? And then war coming, yeah, that's the stage we're in now. And then famine over the next 2 years, yeah, that's exactly what the experts say that we're moving into right away. And then pestilence, a secondary massive worldwide pandemic, which would absolutely, require, at least by those who want to implement it, a world government and a world leader to get the public in line and maybe implement a mark of the beast system. Because what did they want to roll out during the last 3 years? They want to roll out a passport, a digital ID of some sort, so they could figure out who got the what and who didn't. All right, so when the next one comes, they're going to be all ready with their technology. All the government of Canada needs to do is switch on its pass technology. They've got the software ready to go. They just turned it off temporarily, so they've got the software ready to go to implement a digital ID across borders or even within your sovereign nation. And enforce that. And you won't be able to buy or sell. You won't be able to move if you don't have that. So everything's in place. We're doing test runs of everything. The pandemic was a test run of all the digital ID stuff. They've got all the scanners, again, all the apps for your phones ready to go. All they need is for the next big emergency to say, oh, we got to implement this. And we're going to do it across the board. And we have all the technology now because we did a dry run already. So be prepared, folks. We're in last days. I hope you know Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior. The Bible speaks of these times. The Bible speaks of the four horsemen of the apocalypse riding and the seals of Revelation. Go read Revelation chapter 6. It walks you through the seals and then through the judgments that are to come and the tribulation saints and the idea that the Antichrist will implement a mark system. And these are things that you need to understand, you need to be aware of. You need to be reading your Bible about end days, last days Bible prophecy. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.